As some of you know, I am a huge fan of Hallmark Christmas movies. In fact, since October 25th, when Countdown to Christmas began, my TV set, or we have had our TV set, on either the Hallmark Channel or Hallmark Movies and Mysteries about 75% of the time. And while I certainly have a very serious addiction to these movies, I will be the first to admit that they are not all that great, in large measure because they are so very predictable. In fact, I heard someone quip that to call one of these films an original Hallmark movie is a contradiction in terms. No doubt, there is a template that they use in many of their movies. A big city person experiences the joy of being in a small town. Inclement weather thwarts people's travel plans. Or a workaholic learns the true meaning of Christmas, which ironically never has anything to do with Jesus. And there is one other theme that makes its way into almost every Hallmark Christmas movie. It involves a misunderstanding between the male and female lead. Perhaps the one person sees their love interest hugging their ex and mistakenly thinks that they are getting back together. Or perhaps one person overhears just a small part of a conversation and draws a conclusion that proves to be wrong. Whatever the misunderstanding, we can count on two things. First, it will threaten to end the relationship. And second, it will be resolved by the end of the movie so that the couple can kiss and presumably live happily ever after. While I do not want to trivialize the events surrounding the birth of Jesus, as I look at our gospel lesson for this morning, we have all the makings of a Hallmark Christmas movie script, because we have what proves to be a huge misunderstanding between the lead couple. One that legitimately threatens to break up their relationship. Matthew describes the scene for us. When Jesus' mother, Mary, had been engaged to Joseph, but before they lived together, she was found to be with child. Unlike most Hallmark movies, this was no innocent misunderstanding. This was a full-blown crisis, and Joseph knew it. While our text says that Mary and Joseph were engaged, a more appropriate word here would be betrothed. For while they were not living under the same roof yet, while they had not consummated their relationship yet, they were contractually committed to one another. And if for some reason their relationship ended prior to marriage, they would still have to go through divorce proceedings. And in this particular case, since Joseph knew that Mary was pregnant, and since he also knew that he was not the father, there were two options available to him, and neither one of them was at all desirable. First, if Joseph wanted to adhere to the law strictly, he could follow the directive from Deuteronomy chapter 22, which states, if a man is caught lying with the wife of another man, both of them shall die. The man who lay with the woman as well as the woman. However, Joseph was a righteous man, and he did not want to do that to Mary. And so, he made up his mind that he would proceed with the second option. Also in Deuteronomy, the 24th chapter, the law made provision for divorce. Suppose a man enters into a marriage, it says, with a woman, but she does not please him because he finds something objectionable about her. And so he writes her a certificate of divorce, puts it in her hand, and sends her out of his house. In this case, Joseph would spare Mary's life, and he would also spare her from public disgrace. It was not an ideal solution, but it was the best option available to him. Actually, there was a third option available to Joseph, but one that he knew nothing about until God directly intervened. One night, while he was sleeping, an angel of the Lord appeared to him and shared a most surprising message. Joseph, son of David, do not be afraid to take Mary as your wife, for the child conceived in her is from the Holy Spirit. Through this divine dream, Joseph came to realize that, as crazy as it may sound, this whole thing was just a huge misunderstanding. Yes, Mary was pregnant, but she had not betrayed their relationship. Yes, Mary was pregnant, but she had not disobeyed God's law. In fact, she had found favor with God, for she was the one God had chosen to give birth to his son. And as Joseph awoke from this dream, he did just as the angel of the Lord commanded him. He took Mary as his wife, and in time she gave birth to a son, whom they named Jesus, just as the angel instructed. It was a perfect ending. The misunderstanding was cleared up. The conflict was resolved, and the couple was together once again, just like in a Hallmark Christmas movie. As I think about this story, I confess I have great admiration for Joseph and his response. While he typically gets overlooked in the birth story of Jesus, and while he doesn't have any Christmas carols sung about him at this time of year, there are some things that Joseph did that I believe are truly worth emulating. Let me close by suggesting two of them. First, Joseph knew God's law. and Joseph obeyed God's law. But he was not constrained to living by the letter of that law. Had Joseph remained bound to living by the letter of the law, this story would have had a very different ending. But because Joseph allowed himself to be guided by the angel's words, he understood that there was a third option available for him in relationship to Mary. It was one of love and mercy. And that is an important lesson for us to learn as well. Living faithfully toward God is about more than simply obeying God's rules. It is allowing those rules to be seen through the lens of mercy. Just as we remember that God has shown undeserved favor toward us. And second, Joseph teaches us that it takes courage in order to obey God's voice. No doubt, Mary's pregnancy was a huge complication. But when the angel of the Lord came and cleared up the situation, Joseph understood that he no longer needed to live in fear of the unknown, because he knew that something greater was now with him. That the Lord would go with them both, no matter where they went. And again, that is an important lesson for us to learn as well. Living faithfully toward God is learning how to hear and heed his voice. Not just when it is convenient for us, but also when it is difficult. Allowing him to direct, or even redirect our lives for his greater purposes. And if we can do both of those things, we may not get the perfect Hallmark Christmas movie ending, but we will get something far greater. We will get God, the one who is Emmanuel, the God who is with us, the one who is Jesus, the God who saves us